Yo, hold up. We need to talk right now. Because somebody on the Indiana Fever roster is out here making headlines. And it ain't for dropping buckets. It ain't for clutch plays. It ain't for helping Caitlyn Clark get that ring. Nah, this is for something completely different. And honestly, I'm heated about it. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, you already know what it is. We talk real basketball. We keep it 100. No sugarcoating. No agendas. Just hoops, just facts, just vibes. Make sure you smash that like button. Drop a comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. And hit that bell so you never miss when we go live with these takes. Now, let's get into it. Because this one right here, this one is personal. Brianna Turner. Yeah, I said it. Brianna Turner is out here making news for all the wrong reasons. And I need the Indiana Fever front office to hear me loud and clear. Do not bring this woman back. I'm serious. Dead serious. And before y'all come at me in the comments talking about I'm hating, just wait. Just wait. Let me break this whole thing down piece by piece because there's layers to this situation that y'all might not even know about yet. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. Some of these media outlets are calling Brianna Turner a fever star. Excuse me? A star? Hold on. Pause. Rewind. Play that back. A star? Bro, this woman was collecting DMPs like Pokemon cards. She wasn't even seeing the floor. She was riding the bench, cheering from the sideline, doing the whole supportive teammate thing. And that's cool. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a role player. There's nothing wrong with coming off the bench and doing your job when called upon. But a star? Nah, we gotta pump the brakes on that narrative real quick. When injuries hit and the Fever needed bodies, yeah, Turner stepped up. I'll give her that. She came in, she played hard, she contributed. Respect where respect is due. But contributing when your team is desperate and being a star are two completely different things. And we need to stop confusing the two. The media loves doing this. They love inflating players' roles to create storylines. And I get it. Headlines sell. Drama sells. But don't sit here and tell me Brianna Turner is a fever star when Caitlyn Clark is literally on the same roster doing things we've never seen before in women's basketball. That's disrespectful to actual stars, bro. Now here's where things start getting interesting. Y'all know about Unrivaled, right? That 3-on-3 league that launched last year with all the hype in the world? The one that was supposed to revolutionize women's basketball during the off-season? Well, guess what? The ratings are in, and they're not pretty. We're talking about a massive viewership drop. Like, significant. The opening day back in 2025 pulled around 300,000 viewers. Solid. Respectable. People were curious. People wanted to see what this new league was about. But this year, the second season, bro, they dropped to 175,000 on opening night. And it got worse. By January 9th, games were pulling 131,000. And the True TV exclusive games? 32,000 viewers. 32,000. That's not even a college game number. That's not even a regular season WNBA game number. That's embarrassing. And here's the thing. Everybody wants to talk about the growth of women's basketball. Everybody wants to act like the sport is booming across the board. And yeah, there's been growth. I'm not denying that. But let's be real about where that growth is actually coming from. It's coming from one person. You already know who I'm talking about. Caitlyn Clark. When CC is involved, numbers go crazy. When CC is playing, ratings explode. When CC is in the building, seats are filled. That's just facts. That's not opinion. That's data. That's reality. But when she's not there, when the Caitlyn Clark effect isn't boosting your league, you get your real numbers. And Unrivaled is finding that out the hard way right now. But wait, this story gets even wilder. Because while all of this is happening, Brianna Turner decided to hop on social media and share her thoughts. And what she said, it's got people talking. It's got people debating. And it's got me questioning whether she should even be wearing a Fever jersey next season. What did she say? And why is it causing so much controversy? Let me tell you exactly what went down. All right, so check this out. Brianna Turner hopped on social media and posted something that got the whole basketball world buzzing. And on the surface, it seemed innocent enough. She wrote something like, "I truly enjoy watching women's basketball. I don't care if it's college, WNBA, EuroLeague, Unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited. I'm tuning in whenever I get the chance." Cool. That's cool. Good for her. But here's where things get complicated. See, when you're on a team like the Indiana Fever, when you're on Caitlyn Clark's squad, everything you say and do gets magnified. Every statement gets analyzed. Every post gets screenshot and shared a million times. That's just the reality of being connected to the biggest name in women's basketball right now. And the timing of the statement? Bro, the timing couldn't have been worse. Because while Turner is out here cheerleading for Unrivaled, the numbers are telling a completely different story. The fans have spoken. The viewers have made their decision. And the decision is, they're not that interested in 3-on-3 basketball. I'm sorry. I know some of y'all love Unrivaled. I know some of y'all are invested in it. But the data doesn't lie. When you're pulling 32,000 viewers on True TV, that's a problem. When your ratings drop by almost half from year 1 to year 2, that's a red flag. And look, I've tried watching Unrivaled myself. I really have. I wanted to like it. I wanted to be entertained. But the format just doesn't hit the same. 3-on-3 basketball is cool at the park. It's cool at the gym. But as a professional league trying to compete with the WNBA, it's just not clicking for most people. The average WNBA playoff game last year was pulling nearly 1 million viewers. 1 million. And Unrivaled is sitting at 71,000 across an entire weekend? Come on now. But here's the thing that really got me thinking. Brianna Stewart, one of the co-founders of Unrivaled, came out and tried to explain the ratings drop. And what was her excuse? Broadcasting slots. Timing issues. She basically said they want consistent numbers regardless of when they play. Sis, this ain't about broadcasting slots. This ain't about what day of the week the games are on. People are simply not interested in the 3-on-3 format the way y'all thought they would be. And instead of acknowledging that reality, the leadership is out here making excuses. That's concerning. That's a bad sign for the future of the league. And now we got other leagues popping up. Project B is coming. And guess what? Players like Kelsey Mitchell and Alyssa Thomas, who are integral to Unrivaled, have already committed to Project B. They might not even come back next season because the schedules overlap. So Unrivaled is losing star power while the ratings are dropping. That's a double whammy right there. But let's get back to Brianna Turner, because this is where the story takes a wild turn. See, her social media post about supporting women's basketball wasn't the only thing that got people talking. There's something else. Something way more controversial. Something that has a lot of Fever fans questioning whether she's the right fit for the team culture. Y'all might have seen this already. There's this commercial floating around. And in this commercial, Turner is reportedly alongside Megan Rapinoe, the soccer star who's known for being very outspoken about certain political and social issues. And the topic of this commercial? Bro, I don't even want to get too deep into it, because this channel is about basketball. We're about hoops over here. We talk about picks and rolls. We talk about shooting percentages. We talk about who's going to win championships. That's our lane. That's our focus. But when players start mixing heavy political stuff with their basketball careers, especially when they're on a team like the Indiana Fever, it creates problems. The Caitlyn Clark fan base is massive, and that fan base is diverse. People from all different backgrounds, all different beliefs, all different political viewpoints. They come together for one reason, and one reason only: basketball. They want to watch CC do her thing. They want to see the Fever compete for a championship. They want entertainment. They want excitement. They want to escape from all the noise and just enjoy the game. And when a role player, not even a starter, not even a consistent contributor, starts making headlines for stuff that has nothing to do with basketball, that's a distraction. That's unnecessary noise. And the Indiana Fever don't need that right now. Not when they're trying to build something special. Not when they're trying to take the next step. Not when they have the most marketable player in the history of women's basketball on their roster. So, what exactly was in this commercial? And why are some fans calling for Turner to be released immediately? Let me break it down. All right, so let's talk about this commercial situation. Now, I want to be very clear about something before I go any further. This channel respects everybody. Whatever your beliefs are, whatever your lifestyle is, whatever your political views are, that's your business. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to tell people how to live their lives. That's not my lane. But what I am here to do is talk basketball. And when something starts affecting the basketball side of things, when something starts creating distractions for a team that's trying to win, then we gotta address it. So here's what went down. There's reportedly a commercial or advertisement that features Brianna Turner alongside Megan Rapinoe. And the subject matter of this ad deals with some pretty heavy topics regarding gender identity in sports. Specifically, the idea of whether biological males who identify as women should be allowed to compete in women's leagues. Now, look, that's a debate that's happening all across sports right now. It's a conversation that people have strong feelings about on both sides. And I'm not here to tell you what to think about it. That's your personal choice. That's your personal belief system. But here's my issue. When you're a role player on the Indiana Fever, when you're barely getting minutes, when you're not even a consistent part of the rotation, why are you out here making these kinds of headlines? Know your role, bro. I'm being real right now. Some players need to understand their position in the grand scheme of things. You're not the face of the franchise. You're not the one selling jerseys. You're not the one putting fans in seats. So why are you out here doing commercials about controversial topics that have nothing to do with basketball? Caitlyn Clark has been incredibly careful about staying out of political stuff. She's focused on basketball. She's focused on winning. She's focused on entertaining the fans. And that's why her brand is so powerful. That's why companies are lining up to give her endorsement deals. That's why she's becoming one of the most marketable athletes in all of sports. She understands the assignment. But when you have teammates who are out here doing the opposite, who are jumping into controversial waters and creating unnecessary noise, it puts the whole team in a weird position. Think about it from a fan perspective. Let's say you're a Caitlyn Clark fan. You love watching her play. You bought tickets to see the Fever. You got the jersey. You follow the team on social media. You're invested. And then you see that one of her teammates is out here in commercials promoting viewpoints that you strongly disagree with. How does that make you feel about supporting the team? How does that affect your enthusiasm? Some fans might not care, and that's fine, but some fans will care. Some fans will feel alienated. Some fans will start questioning whether they want to support this organization anymore. And that's a problem. The Indiana Fever are in a unique position right now. They have the opportunity to become the biggest brand in women's basketball. They have the chance to build a dynasty. They have the most exciting player in the game on their roster. Why would you do anything to jeopardize that? Why would you create distractions? Why would you give people reasons to turn away from the team? It makes no sense to me. And here's the thing that really bothers me. The media is out here calling Brianna Turner a Fever star. They're giving her headlines. They're amplifying her voice. But what has she actually done on the court to deserve that kind of attention? Let's look at the actual basketball, shall we? Because when you break down the numbers, when you look at her actual contributions, the picture becomes very clear. Turner spent most of the season watching from the bench. She wasn't in the rotation. She wasn't getting consistent minutes. She was a depth piece, a safety net, someone you call on when injuries hit and you need bodies. And there's nothing wrong with that role. Every team needs players who can step up when called upon. Every team needs veterans who can provide leadership and stability. That's valuable, but that's not a star. A star is someone who changes games. A star is someone who puts up numbers consistently. A star is someone who opposing teams have to game plan for. A star is someone like Caitlyn Clark, who can drop triple doubles and make plays that leave people speechless. Brianna Turner is not that. So why is she getting this kind of media attention? Why is her name in headlines? Why are we even having this conversation? Because she's inserting herself into controversies that have nothing to do with basketball. And that's exactly why the Fever need to think long and hard about whether they want to bring her back next season. But wait, there's more to this story. Because Turner isn't the only player making questionable decisions during the offseason. What's happening with the rest of the league? And how does it connect to everything we've been talking about? Let me show you the bigger picture. Let me paint this picture for y'all. Because what's happening right now in women's basketball is bigger than just Brianna Turner. It's bigger than just one controversial commercial. It's bigger than one player making headlines for the wrong reasons. We're witnessing a critical moment in the entire sport, a crossroads, a turning point that's going to determine the future of women's basketball for years to come. And here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. The WNBA and all these off-season leagues are standing at a cliff's edge. One wrong move, one bad decision, and the whole thing could come crashing down. All that growth everyone keeps talking about, it could vanish overnight if the people in charge don't wake up and smell the coffee. Let's talk about what's really happening out here. Unrivaled is struggling. We already covered the ratings. 175,000 on opening night, dropping to 131,000 by the second week. True TV games pulling a measly 32,000 viewers. These are not the numbers of a thriving league. These are warning signs. But here's what's even more concerning. The arena capacity for Unrivaled got increased to 1,000 seats this season. And guess what? They can't fill them. Empty seats everywhere. The cameras are trying their best to avoid showing the sparse crowds, but the truth is obvious to anyone paying attention. This is supposed to be an exclusive, player-first league. This is supposed to be the future of women's basketball. This is supposed to be revolutionary. And they can't put 1,000 people in seats? Bro, my local high school basketball games have better attendance than that. Now, Unrivaled CEO Alex Bazel is out here saying they're not worried. He's talking about merchandise sales being up 50%. He's talking about the Philadelphia stop being sold out. He's talking about resale tickets going for $123. Cool, that's all well and good. But you can't build a sustainable league on merchandise alone. You can't build a lasting product when your core viewership is declining by nearly half from one year to the next. You can't ignore the warning signs and just hope things get better. And here's where it gets really interesting. Project B is coming. For those who don't know, Project B is another off-season league that's being developed, and it's already stealing players from Unrivaled. Kelsey Mitchell, one of the most exciting guards in the WNBA, has committed to Project B. Alyssa Thomas, an absolute monster on the court, has also joined. These are not role players. These are stars. These are players that Unrivaled was counting on to carry their league. And they're leaving. Why? Because the schedules overlap. Because players have to make choices. Because at the end of the day, everyone's looking out for their own careers and their own interests. So now Unrivaled is facing declining ratings and losing star power at the same time. That's a death spiral waiting to happen. Meanwhile, Athletes Unlimited is still out here doing their thing. And guess who's participating? Ariel Atkins, a WNBA champion, and yes, Brianna Turner. So let me get this straight. Turner is playing in Athletes Unlimited. She's appearing in controversial commercials. She's making social media posts about supporting all these different leagues. But what is she actually doing to prepare for the Indiana Fever season? What is she doing to improve her game? What is she doing to earn that roster spot? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like she's focused on everything except basketball. And that's a problem. The Indiana Fever are are building something special. They have a generational talent in Caitlyn Clark. They have a passionate fan base that's growing every single day. They have national attention that most WNBA teams can only dream about. But to take the next step, they need players who are locked in. They need players who are focused on one thing, and one thing only: winning. Not commercials, not political statements, not social media controversies. Winning. And right now, I'm not convinced that Brianna Turner is aligned with that mission. But here's something that really got me thinking. And this is where we need to have an honest conversation about the state of women's basketball as a whole. Everybody keeps talking about growth. The league is growing. The sport is growing. Women's basketball is booming. But is it really? Or are we just seeing the Caitlyn Clark effect and mistaking it for widespread growth? Because when you look at the numbers, when you really dig into the data, a very different picture emerges. And it's a picture that a lot of people in the WNBA don't want you to see. Let me break down the real numbers. All right, let's get real for a second. And I mean really real, because what I'm about to say might upset some people. It might make some folks uncomfortable. But this is a facts-only zone, and the facts don't care about feelings. Everybody in the WNBA, everybody in sports media, everybody connected to women's basketball is out here beating their chests about growth. They're shouting from the rooftops about how the sport is exploding. They're pointing to attendance numbers and TV deals and social media engagement. And yeah, on the surface, things look good. But let me ask you a question. What happens when you remove Caitlyn Clark from the equation? What do the numbers actually look like when CC is involved? Because bro, I've been studying this. I've been paying attention. And the difference is staggering. When Caitlyn Clark plays, ratings skyrocket. When Caitlyn Clark is in the building, arenas sell out. When Caitlyn Clark is on screen, people tune in by the millions. Her games were averaging numbers that the WNBA had never seen before. Historic viewership, record-breaking attendance, social media engagement through the roof. But here's the thing nobody wants to talk about. When she's not playing, when it's just a regular WNBA game without CC involved, the numbers drop significantly. Last season, WNBA games featuring Caitlyn Clark averaged over 1 million viewers at times. Some of her biggest games pulled numbers that rivaled NBA matchups. That's insane. That's unprecedented. That's the Caitlyn Clark effect in full force. But games without her? Regular season matchups between other teams? You're looking at a fraction of that viewership. A fraction. And that tells you everything you need to know about the current state of women's basketball. The growth isn't across the board. The rising tide isn't lifting all ships equally. What we're seeing is one player, one transcendent superstar, carrying an entire league on her shoulders. And that's both incredible and terrifying at the same time. It's incredible because Caitlyn Clark is a once-in-a-generation talent. She's doing things we've never seen before. She's bringing new fans to the sport. She's changing the culture of women's basketball forever. But it's terrifying because what happens if she gets injured? What happens if she takes a season off? What happens when she eventually retires? Does the growth sustain itself? Or does it evaporate like morning dew? That's the question that WNBA executives should be losing sleep over. That's a conversation that needs to be happening behind closed doors. Because right now, the entire house of cards is built on one person. And here's where Brianna Turner and players like her come into the picture. Instead of focusing on basketball, instead of working to become better players, instead of contributing to the product on the court, they're out here chasing headlines for non-basketball reasons. They're participating in controversial commercials. They're making political statements. They're inserting themselves into debates that alienate portions of the fan base. And for what? What does any of that accomplish? It doesn't make the games more exciting. It doesn't improve the quality of play. It doesn't attract new fans who are on the fence about watching women's basketball. If anything, it does the opposite. It gives people reasons not to watch. It creates divisions. It turns a sports product into a political battleground. And the WNBA cannot afford that right now. Not when the entire growth narrative is dependent on one player. Not when the league is still trying to prove its long-term viability. Not when competitors like Project B are emerging to steal market share. The Indiana Fever especially cannot afford distractions. Think about what this team is trying to build. They have Caitlyn Clark, the most valuable asset in women's basketball. They have a young, hungry roster with room to grow. They have a fan base that's passionate and engaged and ready to support a championship run. Everything is aligned for Fever to become a dynasty. But dynasties aren't built with drama. Championships aren't won with controversies. Legacies aren't created by players who care more about making headlines than making buckets. The Fever need laser focus. They need everyone on the roster pulling in the same direction. They need players who wake up every single day thinking about one thing. How do we help Caitlyn Clark with a ring? That should be the only question on every Fever player's mind. That should be the only priority. That should be the mission statement tattooed on everyone's forearm. And if Brianna Turner isn't aligned with that mission, if she's more focused on commercials and social statements than on her basketball development, then she gotta go. Simple as that. But here's where this whole situation gets even messier. Because Turner isn't just making noise in the offseason. There are questions about what she actually brings to the table on the court. When you look at her actual basketball contributions, does she even deserve a roster spot? Let me break down the tape. All right, let's talk basketball. Pure basketball. X's and O's. Stats and performance. What actually happens on the hardwood when Brianna Turner steps on the court? Because at the end of the day, that's what should determine whether somebody gets a roster spot. Not commercials. Not social media posts. Not political statements. Your ability to contribute to winning basketball games. So what does Brianna Turner actually bring to the table? Let's be honest here. Turner came to the Fever as a veteran presence. Somebody with experience. Somebody who could provide depth. Somebody who could step in if injuries hit and bodies were needed. And in that role, she was fine. Not great. Not exceptional. Not game-changing. Fine. When players went down and the Fever needed someone to fill minutes, Turner stepped up. She played hard. She competed. She did her job. I'm not going to sit here and say she was terrible. That wouldn't be fair. But here's the reality. She wasn't cracking the rotation when everyone was healthy. She wasn't a player that Coach Christie's sides was drawing up plays for. She wasn't someone that opposing teams had to game plan against. She was a break glass in case of emergency type of player, and there's value in that. Every team needs those players. Every roster needs depth. You can't go through an 82-game season with only 8 players. Bodies break down. Injuries happen. Fatigue sets in. You need players on the bench who can step in and hold it down. But here's my question. Is Brianna Turner the best option for that role? Because in the WNBA, roster spots are precious. You only get 12 players. Every single spot matters. Every single roster decision can be the difference between making the playoffs and going home early. And when you're the Indiana Fever, when you have Caitlyn Clark and you're trying to build a championship contender, you need to maximize every single roster spot. You need players who fit the system. Players who complement CC's game. Players who can space the floor, play defense, and contribute in meaningful ways. Does Brianna Turner check those boxes? Let's look at the numbers. Turner averaged modest minutes last season. Her scoring was minimal. Her rebounding was decent but not spectacular. Her defensive presence was okay. Nothing that jumps off the page. Nothing that makes you say, yeah, we absolutely need this player on the team. And when you compare her to other available options in free agency, when you look at players who might be willing to come to Indiana to play alongside Caitlyn Clark, the picture becomes even clearer. There are better options out there. There are players who bring more to the table offensively. There are players who are more versatile defensively. There are players who have championship experience and playoff pedigree. So why would the Fever bring Turner back? Because she's a familiar face? Because she's already in the locker room? Because it's easier to run it back than to make changes? Nah, bro. That's not how you build championship teams. Championship teams make tough decisions. Championship teams are always looking to upgrade. Championship teams don't settle for fine when great is available. And here's something else to consider. Chemistry matters. Locker room culture matters. The energy that players bring to the facility every single day matters. When you have a player who's out here making controversial headlines, who's appearing in political commercials, who's inserting herself into debates that have nothing to do with basketball, what kind of energy does that bring to the locker room? Does it bring focus? Does it bring unity? Does it bring that championship mentality? Or does it bring distractions? Does it bring division? Does it bring unnecessary drama? Because I'm telling you right now, championship teams have a certain vibe. They have a certain culture. Everybody is locked in. Everybody is focused on the same goal. Controversial commercials. She's participating in debates that have nothing to do with the sport. She's getting media attention that far exceeds her on-court contributions. That's a recipe for problems, bro. Because here's what happens next. The media keeps covering her. They keep asking her questions about controversial topics. They keep putting microphones in her face and baiting her into making statements. And every time she says something, it becomes a story. It becomes a headline. It becomes a distraction that the team has to deal with. Meanwhile, Caitlyn Clark is trying to focus on basketball. She's trying to lead this team to the playoffs. She's trying to build chemistry with her teammates. She's trying to take the next step in her career. But everywhere she goes, reporters are asking her about her teammates' comments. They're trying to get a reaction. They're trying to create conflict where none exists. That's exhausting, bro. That's draining. That takes energy away from what actually matters. And it's not just about Clark. It's about the entire team. Imagine being Aaliyah Boston right now. You're one of the best young players in the league. You're trying to establish yourself as a cornerstone of this franchise. You're focused on improving your game and helping the Fever win. But instead of talking about basketball, reporters are asking you about your teammates' political commercials. How annoying is that? How frustrating must it be to have to navigate those questions when all you want to do is talk about pick and rolls and defensive schemes? This is what happens when players bring outside noise into the building. It affects everyone. It changes the entire dynamic. It shifts the focus away from what should be the only priority, winning basketball games. And here's something else to consider. Free agents pay attention to this stuff. When the Fever are trying to recruit players to come play alongside Caitlyn Clark, those players are going to do their research. They're going to look at the locker room culture. They're going to assess whether this is an environment where they can thrive. And if they see a team that's constantly dealing with distractions, if they see a franchise that can't keep the focus on basketball, if they see players making controversial headlines that have nothing to do with the sport, they might think twice about signing. They might choose to go somewhere else, somewhere with less drama, somewhere with a more focused culture, somewhere that feels like a better fit. And that would be devastating for the Fever, because right now, playing with Caitlyn Clark should be the most attractive destination in the entire WNBA. Every free agent should be begging to come to Indiana. The opportunity to play alongside a generational talent, to be part of something special, to potentially win championships. That's the dream, bro. But if the Fever let distractions contaminate their culture, that advantage disappears. The appeal fades. The dream becomes a nightmare. The front office has a responsibility here. They have a responsibility to protect their franchise player. They have a responsibility to build a culture of winning. They have a responsibility to make tough decisions that serve the long-term interests of the organization. And sometimes that means letting players go, even if they haven't done anything egregiously wrong, even if they're not bad people, even if they contributed in small ways. Sometimes the fit just isn't right. Sometimes the risk outweighs the reward. Sometimes you have to make the hard call for the greater good. Brianna Turner might be a perfectly nice person. She might be a solid teammate in certain ways. She might have value on another roster in another situation. But is she the right fit for this Indiana Fever team at this specific moment in time? I don't think so. And I think the Fever need to seriously consider moving on. But what would that actually look like? And who could they bring in to replace her? Let me break down some options. All right, let's talk solutions. Because I'm not the type to just complain about problems without offering answers. That ain't productive. That ain't helpful. If we're going to say Brianna Turner shouldn't be brought back, we got to talk about what the Indiana Fever should do instead. So let's get into it. First of all, the Fever need to understand what they're building. They're not just assembling a roster. They're constructing a championship caliber team around the most marketable player in women's basketball history. That means every single roster decision matters. Every player they bring in needs to serve a purpose. Every signing needs to fit the puzzle. Every piece needs to complement Caitlyn Clark's game and help maximize her potential. So, what do the Fever actually need? Let's break it down position by position. They need players who can space the floor. Caitlyn Clark is one of the best passers in the game. She sees angles that most players can't even imagine. But to fully unlock her playmaking ability, she needs shooters around her. Players who can knock down threes when she kicks it out. Players who force defenses to respect their shot and can't just pack the paint. Does Brianna Turner provide elite floor spacing? Not really. They need players who can protect the rim. Defensively, the Fever need to improve. They need players who can anchor the defense, block shots, and make opponents think twice about attacking the basket. Championship teams are built on defensive foundations. Does Brianna Turner provide elite rim protection? Not particularly. They need players who can handle the ball when Clark needs a break. You can't have CC playing 40 minutes every night. She needs rest. She needs teammates who can run the offense and make plays when she's on the bench. Playmaking depth is crucial. Does Brianna Turner provide secondary playmaking? Not at all. So when you look at what the Fever actually need, Turner doesn't really check any of the boxes. She's a tweener, a player without a defined role, someone who can fill in but doesn't excel at anything specifically. And in the modern WNBA, you can't afford passengers. You can't afford players who don't bring something special to the table. Every roster spot is too valuable. Now, let's talk about who the Fever could target instead. The free agent market is going to have some interesting options. There are players out there who would jump at the chance to play alongside Caitlyn Clark. Players who bring specific skills that would elevate this roster. Imagine adding a true stretch four who can shoot the three at a high clip. Someone who can space the floor and give Clark driving lanes. Someone who forces defenses to make impossible choices that would transform the offense. Or imagine adding a defensive specialist, a player whose sole purpose is to guard the opponent's best player. Someone who takes pride in locking people up. Someone who brings that dog mentality on the defensive end. That would make the Fever so much harder to play against. Or imagine adding a veteran point guard who can mentor Clark and run the show when she needs rest. Someone with championship experience. Someone who knows what it takes to win in the playoffs. That would provide invaluable depth and leadership. All of these options would serve the Fever better than bringing Brianna Turner back. And here's the thing. Because Caitlyn Clark is in Indiana, because the Fever are the hottest ticket in the WNBA, players are going to want to come here. Free agents who might have gone elsewhere in previous years are going to seriously consider Indiana. The Fever have leverage. They have appeal. They have something that no other franchise can offer. The chance to play with CC. They need to use that leverage wisely. They need to target players who fit the system. They need to build a roster specifically designed to maximize Clark's abilities and compete for championships. That's not Brianna Turner. I'm sorry. I know that sounds harsh. I know Turner has fans. I know she's probably a good person who works hard. But this is business. This is professional sports. This is about winning. And the Indiana Fever need to do everything in their power to put the best possible team around their franchise player. Anything less would be a disservice to Caitlyn Clark. Anything less would be wasting this incredible opportunity. Anything less would be malpractice by the front office. So what's the final verdict? What should the Fever actually do? Let me give you my ultimate conclusion. All right, y'all, let's bring this whole thing home. We've been talking for a minute now. We've covered a lot of ground. We've discussed Brianna Turner's off-court controversies. We've talked about Unrivaled's declining ratings. We've examined the Caitlyn Clark effect on women's basketball. We've broken down roster construction and what the Fever actually need. Now it's time for the final verdict. And I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all, like I always do. The Indiana Fever should not bring Brianna Turner back. Period. It's not personal. It's not about hating on her as a person. It's not about any political stance one way or the other. It's about basketball. It's about winning. It's about protecting the most valuable asset in women's basketball and building a championship culture around her. Let me recap everything we've talked about. Brianna Turner spent most of last season on the bench collecting DMPs. She wasn't in the rotation. She wasn't a consistent contributor. She only got meaningful minutes when injuries forced the coaching staff to dig into the depth. That's a depth piece. That's a break glass in case of emergency player. That's not a star. That's not someone the media should be giving headlines to. But despite her minimal on-court contributions, Turner has been making news constantly. She's appearing in controversial commercials alongside Megan Rapinoe. She's inserting herself into political debates that have nothing to do with basketball. She's creating distractions that the Fever don't need. And she's getting media attention that far exceeds anything she's earned on the court. That's a problem, bro. When you're on Caitlyn Clark's team, the spotlight is always on you. Everything gets magnified. Every statement gets analyzed. Every move gets scrutinized. And instead of staying focused on basketball, instead of keeping her head down and working on her game, Turner is out here chasing headlines for non-basketball reasons. That's not the mentality you want on a championship team. That's not the culture you want in your locker room. That's not the energy you want around your franchise player. Meanwhile, Unrivaled is struggling with declining ratings. The 3-on-3 format isn't connecting with fans. Viewership has dropped almost 50% from year 1 to year 2. Star players are leaving for a Project B. And what does Turner do? She hops on social media talking about how she supports all these different leagues and watches women's basketball no matter what. Cool. Good for her. But the fans have spoken. The viewers have made their decision. And the numbers don't lie. Women's basketball is not experiencing universal growth. What we're seeing is the Caitlyn Clark effect. When CC is involved, ratings explode. When she's not, you get your real numbers. And those real numbers, they're not pretty. The WNBA needs to wake up and recognize this reality. The league needs to appreciate what Caitlyn Clark brings to the table. They need to protect her. They need to build around her. They need to do everything possible to keep her happy and successful. And that starts with the Indiana Fever making smart roster decisions. Bringing Brianna Turner back is not a smart roster decision. She doesn't fit what the Fever need. She doesn't provide elite floor spacing. She doesn't provide rim protection. She doesn't provide secondary playmaking. She doesn't check any of the boxes that would justify taking up a precious roster spot. And on top of that, she's bringing unnecessary drama and controversy. It's a no-brainer, y'all. The Fever need to move on. They need to use their roster spot on someone who actually fits the system. They need to target free agents who bring specific skills that complement Caitlyn Clark's game. They need to build a championship culture where the only focus is winning, not commercials, not political statements, not social media controversies. Winning. That's it. That's the mission. That's the only thing that should matter. And if Brianna Turner can't get with that program, if she's more interested in making headlines and making buckets, she needs to go somewhere else. somewhere where her off-court activities won't create distractions, somewhere where her limited on-court contributions might actually be valued, somewhere where she's not overshadowed by a generational talent who demands singular focus. The Indiana Fever have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity right now. They have the most exciting player in women's basketball history. They have a passionate fan base that's growing every day. They have national attention that other franchises would kill for. Don't waste it. Don't let distractions derail the mission. Don't bring Brianna Turner back. Build around Caitlyn Clark. Protect Caitlyn Clark. Give Caitlyn Clark every possible chance to succeed. That's the smart play. That's the winning play. That's the only play that makes sense. And that's my final take. Yo, if you made it this far, you're a real one. Drop a comment letting me know what you think. Should the Fever bring Turner back or move on? I want to hear from y'all. Make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell so you never miss when we go live. And until next time, y'all know what it is. Stay locked in, stay focused, and keep it about basketball. Peace.